right, welcome back to the show. We have a returning guest tonight, and he's currently running another Kickstarter. Dirk Manning's here, so let's bring him in, find out what he's been up to, and about the new project.
Hello,
Hey,
my friend.
Dirk,
Good to see you.
how's it going?
I tell people all the time, and people that have never run a Kickstarter maybe aren't aware of this, and I can tell you for a fact that Josh Malerman, my co-writer on this book, is learning this for the first time. You never work harder than when you're running a Kickstarter. So how am I doing? It's going great, but man, when you're grinding out a Kickstarter for 30 days or give or take, you never work harder. It doesn't matter if you're funded in 5 minutes, the first 5 minutes, the last 5 minutes. We've been very fortunate on this one. We got funded in about 24 hours, but we're grinding, brother. We're grinding. We're moving right along.
So before we get into that, for people who didn't see our last interview, which was kind of a done at a very tense time for everyone, tell us a bit about your comic history as a both as a writer and creator, or
Yeah,
sorry, as a reader and a creator.
reader, writer, do everything, right? You can tell I read. I am surrounded by comic books as I talk to you. Dirk Manning, a writer, reader, and comic book creator. Books I've written include Nightmare World, Tales of Mystery, Hope, Love Stories About Death. Been nominated for the Ring Award a couple times for books including Buried But Not Dead, which is an anthology of short horror stories. TWIZTID Haunted High-ONS with the rap band TWIZTID for Best Humor Comic. And most recently, I've written a couple wrestling biographies because I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. So Butt and Seats with Tony Schiavone, Arn Anderson, My Life as the Enforcer with Arn Anderson. And the project that we're running right now is RSVP, E.S.P. It is a parapsychological horror graphic novel that I'm co-writing with Josh Malerman, New York Times bestselling author of Bird Box, Incidents Around the House. This is his first foray into the world of graphic novels. And I'm sure we'll talk about the story a little bit more as we go, but what a treat this has been. As a longtime friend of Josh, to get to bring him into the world of graphic novels and be running a very successful Kickstarter with him for an amazing graphic novel with a team of creators and artists I've worked with before. It's cool, man. It's really cool. And people can check out the campaign at rsvp-esp.com or go to Kickstarter, type in RSVP. But yeah, it's that's what I do in a nutshell. That's part of what I do in a nutshell, I guess.
Before we start to talk about the current one, how did London After Midnight finish up?
Gosh, yeah, London After Midnight was another amazing one. It's interesting you bring that up. We had a very successful wrap up for London After Midnight, which is a graphic novel that I adapted from the screenplay given to me by the Cheney estate. Even if you don't know the name London After Midnight, you inevitably know the image of the man in the beaver hat, the top hat and the fangs, the big white eyes, Lon Chaney. That campaign ended up wrapping up very well. We did a leather-bound edition of that book, things like that. London After Midnight's in the printer right now. But I say this to say this is interesting because this is my 22nd year as a published comic book writer. This is the first time in my career that I've done back-to-back graphic novels that are not solely creator-owned. Right. So we did the adaptation of London After Midnight, based on the screenplay of the Lost Film, bringing that to life as a graphic novel. And then I went right from that into working with Josh Malerman on creating RSVP ESP, which is a 120-page graphic novel based on a previously unpublished short story of his. And I'm a guy who I really self-identify as like someone that does creator-owned comics. Again, I've worked with TWIZTID. I've worked with Arn Anderson, Tony Schiavone, the Lon Chaney estate, Ron Chaney, and now Josh Malerman. But when I look at I'm looking at like a spinner rack over here with all my graphic novels on it, right? And I'm looking over at my litany of graphic novels I've written. I mainly focus on creator-owned horror stuff. So this has been really interesting for me, and I think for my readers too, to see me go back to back adaptation in a way. But these are both projects that I could not say no to.
Hmm.
Right? I mean, this was this was to bring London After Midnight to life was an incredible experience. Then to get to work with Josh Malerman, who is one of my favorite authors in period, full stop. I would say the horror space, but full stop. And when I approached him about, hey man, when are you gonna do a graphic novel? And he said, I'll do one if you write it with me. What do you say? Nah. Sorry, New York Times best-selling author Josh Malerman, whom I'm a huge fan of and a friend of personally. We'll get to it. No, it's like, when are we starting? And now here we are.
So yeah, let's dive right into it. Tell us a little bit about the story itself, and um, if you know about what inspired the original story, then
So RSVP E.S.P, it's about a scientist who's very desperate to prove that psychic powers are real. And in doing so, he has invited these two younger boys, preteens, into his home, with permission of their parents, of course, for a 2-week study to help determine if their powers are real. He has an inkling that there's something going on. There's been like footage out there, like YouTube and stuff like that. They show there might be something going on with these two kids. What he doesn't know are two very important things about these young wards he's brought into his home for this study. One, they're both like omega level psychics. They are super powerful. And two, one of them really wants to prove that psychic powers are real. The other one wants the doctor to think they're not. So what happens is these two boys kind of start like enter this like war that the doctor is trapped in the middle of, and he has no idea it's happening. And they literally start rewriting reality around him left and right. So really, we kind of say parapsychological. But what's been fun with this book as well, and I know I gave you a sample like the first 70 pages or so you've seen a little glimpse of this, but this book gets really extreme in a lot of ways really quickly. I've been telling people that, think David Cronenberg, think Junji Ito, right? This book gets wild and it gets dark and it gets big. It starts very small and then it just gets bigger and bigger and crazier as it goes. And it's a really intense book. We've made I've been saying a lot. We kind of made a pact with each other, all of us, not to share anything past the first 25 pages of the book. The whole graphic novel is 120 pages, but Josh and I, Malerman and I especially, because mind you, we have Josh Malerman, the co-writer of the book, then we have Joshua Ross, the artist. A lot of Josh is going around, but Josh, the writer, as opposed to Joshua, the artist. With Josh and I are huge horror fans, and we always like talk about like, man, we hate it when like the trailer gives away the coolest scenes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, there's some really intense stuff that we're just dying for people to see, no pun intended, but we want them to see it. We want all of you to see it on the page for the first time and to experience it that way. But it's an intense book, man. It gets really, it starts creepy and then it just starts to get wild and all encompassing and terrifying as it moves forward.
So, are there any challenges, adapting, this short story? And I know, even though you're friends, is there anything like any challenges that you guys faced, like bringing it to the graphic novel, or things you had to kind of, you know, work with him to, kind of make that transition? I know that was like five questions in one.
No, but no, it all connects, right? All daisy chains together. It's interesting because when we landed on this story and I read it, I told Josh two things. One thing that I told him was, I think the reason that not this isn't a good story, it's a great story, but I think the reason you haven't pushed it forward in any publishable fashion yet is because this is a story that's meant to be told visually, right? when you got two kids battling and like rewriting reality around someone, it's a very visual story. So I told Josh Malerman that. The other thing that happened is as soon as I read the story, I immediately reached out to Joshua Ross. Joshua Ross is one of my oldest collaborators in the comic game. We've worked together ever since the days of Nightmare World. He did the whole first volume of Tales of Mystery with me. One of my longest time collaborators in the comic industry. And at that point, he was working on or just finishing up his own first graphic novel, Left Turns, which is like this slice of life, creative nonfiction book. And I get a hold of Joshua and I say, Joshua, I've just read a story that could turn into a graphic novel. I can't tell you anything about it aside from the fact that it's from a major personality in horror, and that only you can bring this story to life. Now, mind you, we hadn't worked anything long for him in a long time at this point. I mean, we're still friends. We worked together here and there. He did stuff in Butts and Seeds. He did, other stuff. But I said, when I read this story, man, Chad, I'm telling you, hands in the air. I could only envision Joshua Ross bringing this story to life. And to Joshua's credit, he just goes, I trust you, man. Okay, I'm in. I'm like, great. Then I go back to Josh Malerman. Okay, I've got the artist for this. Joshua Ross, he's great. Blah 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 blah. So then I showed him Nightmare World, some of the stuff he's done, and they got them together. They could meet. They got along famously, and so from there, knowing that Joshua was the artist was the biggest initial hurdle, because again, I've worked with some amazing artists. I mean, when you look at people like Les Garner or Sally Scott or Austin McKinley, I mean, Marianne Pescosta, the list goes on and on of just fantastic artists I've gotten to work with over the years. This has some very unique challenges in how to present what you're doing that had to be Joshua Ross, who again is an amazing artist I've worked with for a long time. Once that hurdle was cleared, the next thing was, well, like you said, Josh and I are friends. What's it going to be like if I start to tinker with it a little bit? And to his credit, Josh Malerman has been an amazing partner through this whole process. And I truly mean partner. I mean, he's been absolutely amazing, because there are some things we tweaked as we went. It's like, even down to the ending, we just kind of fiddled with it a little bit. And he's been very gracious. He's like, yeah, you made it even better, which Josh being one of my favorite writers, for him to say that I took a story of his and adjustments we made it better is really flattering, really humbling. It's really cool. But it was nerve-wracking, right? But very quickly became evident that Josh was not just blowing smoke and not hands off in this process, but rather as he started to see what we were doing with the story and getting to watch him watch a story get turned into a comic book for the first time. He was very understanding about the process, very good with it, and even some of the notes he had here and there really made this something very special. And I cannot wait for people to see it.
So, without giving too much away, is there a favorite character in the book, or one you've kind of latched onto as you guys were working on the project?
Yeah, well, the three main characters of the book are Dr. Massey and then the two kids, Matthew and Elliot. And it's funny, people, even just seeing some of the still images, are latching onto Massey, the doctor. Somebody say he's like a Welcome Back Kotter type of guy, or like a Captain Kangaroo, or a Bob Ross. And the way that Joshua drew him, it's just evident that he's this very nice man. And that's been a really cool thing to watch, that people just see a couple still images of this guy. They haven't even really seen him speak a lot yet, unless you've actually read the preview, which we've been kind of pretty stingy about, quite frankly. Massey is a really pleasant, kind, gregarious character, but there's also as the book goes forward, without giving too much away, this undercurrent of what he's doing. Why is this guy so hell-bent to prove that psychic powers are real? And you start to realize what he has sacrificed, and some things have happened in his life, and how he so desperately wants to prove this, all the while not knowing that he has basically these two godlike psychics right in front of him, right, who are manipulating things around him. He has no idea it's happening. But Massey could have very easily been played strictly for comic relief, and I'm glad that we got to really flesh out the fact that while this guy is kind of being taken advantage of in a way, he's not a sop, he's not a clown, but rather he's just this good guy who is trapped in a very overwhelming situation and has no clue. So he's really a cool character, and I think his character is going to resonate with a lot of people, because anti-heroes are really big right now. Massey's just a good guy. He's a good guy, and that's not to say good guys can't be pushed, right? But even when he gets pushed, how he reacts to things, it's very fatherly, it's very kind, it's very pleasant, and it's nice to write such a genuinely wholesome character.
So, kind of looking at the campaign as a whole, what are you guys offering for those people, to as rewards for supporting?
Yeah, man. One of the things I'm really excited about with this campaign is oftentimes when I do a Kickstarter, I'll offer a limited edition Kickstarter exclusive hardcover edition of the book. With this campaign, we're doing something I've never done before, a hardcover lenticular cover. So it's one of those like moving cover images. I've kind of used this. I have this like neat little prop here, like the Watchmen box set, and you can see like the actors. And that's right, the lenticular. So the hardcover edition of the book has the lenticular cover on it. That's an automatic. Since then, we've unlocked 6 more stretch goals, right? The book now comes with a triple signed book plate, signed by me, signed by Josh Malerman, signed by Joshua Ross. It also comes with a purple embedded ribbon bookmark, purple gilded pages. We've most recently unlocked a leather-bound cover, so I can finally say it's a limited edition leather-bound lenticular. And I've been practicing the whole campaign to get to that point to say that in interviews. We are currently, as we're talking right now, about like one Give Me Everything pledge away from unlocking a new forward from me in the book, talking a little bit about the creation of the book, but also some stuff on psychic powers. If we unlock that stretch goal, the next stretch goal, Josh Malerman is going to do a multi-page afterword all about what it was like to bring a prose story to life as a graphic novel. But the main thing that we wanted to do with this whole campaign, focus on the book. We want to make the book itself as cool as possible. I love crazy gimmicks, right? When I do the Tales of Mystery campaigns, I've done coffee, I've done candles, I've done just wild stuff, right? This one, we wanted to make it strictly about the book and how fancy can we make the book. And especially when you consider with Josh Malerman, he's had so much success in Hollywood and things like that, and how limited edition these books are going to be, these lenticular hardcovers, let alone now the gilded pages and the ribbon bookmarks and triple autographs and the leather bound. This is going to be a really special treat for people that jump in and pledge for this. Josh Malerman, I'm going to just put it right out there, even though he's not here with me right now. He's one of the biggest voices in horror right now. And to have a copy of a limited edition version of a book that he's done that may be limited to a couple hundred copies, that's going to be really something really special to have later, especially if you're a book lover.
Nice. So, what are your feelings on like psychic powers, whether or not they exist?
I was gonna save it for the forward if we unlock it, but I'll give you a teaser. It's very easy to say that psychic powers or intuition or whatever you want to call it is not real.
Mm-hmm.
But it also takes what may be considered a large amount of hubris to say that stuff's not real. Right? I've seen some things in my day. I think a lot of times when we talk about people with psychic powers, there's people that make those types of things their image almost to a insulting degree, like they're just permanently cosplaying.
Mm-hmm.
But I've had intuition. I've had like bouts of intuition about things that arguably it asks the question, why did I have a bad feeling about that and why did it come true? Right. Or why do I have things like that? So I'm not going to say no. I certainly hope there's not psychics in the world that are as powerful as the boys in this book are. But I suppose if there were, we would know the difference.
Right. And, since it is, psychic, do you have any like favorite psychic based horror books or even uh, uh, books where two creators teamed up? I'm doing a re-listen to The Talisman by Stephen King and Peter Straub. So,
Right.
and
That
I really want to listen to the ones he wrote with his kids too.
it's funny you bring that up because that was one of the first ones I thought of when you mentioned a team up is like Peter Straub and Stephen King. Joe Hill, or sorry, wow. Yeah, Joe Hill and Stephen King did a nice team up book too, Road Rage. But when it comes to psychic stories, Harlan Ellison did a novella called Mephisto and Onyx, which was just so very, very good. And I highly recommend everyone check that one out. I'm a big fan of a lot of Harlan Ellison's writing anyway, but that is an absolutely amazing novella. I believe when J. Michael Straczynski just did the Harlan Ellison's greatest hits collection posthumously for Harlan, that novella is in like the greatest hits collection. Really cool book. I absolutely cannot recommend that one enough. That's probably one of my top tier picks.
And what makes a good, well, other than what you guys are doing, what makes a good psychic horror? And well, I mean, there's certain tropes that you kind of expect
Mm-hmm.
is, and without giving it away, are you guys in this book? Are you trying to like turn certain tropes on or put your own spin on them?
Especially in comics, I think psychic powers in the comic medium are depicted a certain way, right? Come to me, my X-Men, right? Stuff like that, which is fine. I really wanted to make sure that we didn't fall into some of the more Kirby Crackle gimmicky stuff with psychic powers, especially because as readers, it gets to a point where we don't know what's real and what's not in the book. It's hard to scare people in the comic. And I say that as someone that's dedicated most of my comic career to writing scary comics. You don't have the power of the jump scare. You don't have the power of music. You don't have the power of even controlling when they see what when. So one of the things to make people feel unsettled was one on a very specific color palette by Colin Johnson, who did an amazing job on this. But also making it so that as you are reading the book, it'll get to the point when you don't know what's real and what's not real. That person that came into the house, are they real or not? Is it one of the boys screwing around? Right? And things like that. So that was definitely, I appreciate you asking that, because that was definitely one of the things I think that I wanted to really do is make a truly unsettling story about psychic powers without falling into Kirby Crackle, without falling into, and then stuff like that. Not that there's not a place for that. Not that there might not be a time when you see that. Every psychic story, any psychic visual story, you would inevitably see the nosebleed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's Stranger Things or whatever it is, right? You always see stuff like that eventually. But yeah, we definitely wanted to take a little bit of a different approach with this. And again, Joshua Ross and Colin Johnson, our illustrator and colorist on this book, really, really delivered on that. So that you're going to get a very engrossing experience in this book. And then as the psychic battle continues, ideally, and for everything I've seen, I see no reason to believe this won't be the case, that people will really get drawn into the world, into the house, into what's happening around them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want, I'm trying so hard not to give stuff away, but
Oh, yeah. Please don't give anything away.
yeah, I will just say that the house is as much a character as the people,
No.
and
Okay.
in a two-dimensional medium, that's a tricky thing to do, right? But Joshua Ross really, again, just did an amazing job with this, giving everything a sense of space. And
Mm-hmm.
because, again, a lot of the book is this scientist in this house with these two boys, right? And they're isolated. And Dr. Massey doesn't realize how isolated they actually are, right? Yeah, it just gets crazier and crazier from there.
Well, as we kind of wrap up here, do you want to give like a final pitch for the campaign and where people can find you on social media, and if you have any upcoming appearances?
Yeah, totally. Again, RSVP-ESP.com. If you go to Kickstarter, type in RSVP, you should bring up the campaign for you. I cannot stress enough what a deluxe edition of the book this has been due to the success of this Kickstarter. If you're in the U.S., what you see is what you pay. There's no additional cost for shipping. There's no additional cost for anything. If you pledge $45 for the hardcover, that's what you're going to pay. You will get a hardcover in the mail. I know people are very worried right now about postal issues, tariffs, things like that. Don't worry about it. What you see, what you pay. That's our social contract to you. And to get the first graphic novel by one of the modern masters of horror, and Josh Malerman. I'm just kidding. So, no, but to get Josh Malerman's first experience with the graphic novels in this deluxe edition, I've been telling everybody to listen. I'm like, you can't say later I didn't warn you. This is the guy that wrote Bird Box, okay? This is the guy that wrote Bird Box, and he's got Incidents Around the House, just got picked up as a film. Pearl's coming out as another movie on Netflix based on one of his books, things like that. This is a collector's item. If you like fancy editions of the book, RSVP, ESP, check that out. As myself, Dirk Manning, I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Just look for the picture of the guy top hat and the scarf for Dirk Manning. You'll find me. Upcoming appearances, I will be in Hilliard, Ohio at the Eisner award-winning Pack Rat Comics on Free Comic Book Day. Then the end of the month, we'll be way up in Michigan in Traverse City. Both Josh Malerman and I will be doing a signing together at Cherry Capital Comic Con Memorial Day weekend, one of my favorite conventions of the year. And what's really cool about this one is that we are going to have a sneak peek preview Ashcan comic for RSVP ESP, convention exclusive, limited to 100 copies. Josh and I are doing a panel on Saturday. We'll be sending copies at the Ashcan. But from there, you can check out dirkmanning.com for my full list of convention appearances and things like that from there.
Very cool. Well, I think you have a little over a week or so left in the campaign.
Yeah, we got 10 days left in the campaign. As I'm talking to you right now, we're about one Give Me Everything pledge away from unlocking the 7th stretch goal. Then we'll be moving towards the 8th one, which will be the new Josh Malerman essay at the end of the book. How much we trick out the book is just depending on how many people jump in and join us. So I just encourage everybody to do that. I've run many, many Kickstarters. I really believe in paying it forward to the readers with the campaigns. And yeah, and no funds are drawn until Cinco de Mayo. The campaign ends Cinco de Mayo, May 5th. So you can pledge what you want now, and the funds don't come out till May 5th anyway. So you get to sneak another payday in there before you have to worry about it.
Well, people should definitely check it out, and they can also follow the campaign over on Comic Watch in our weekly crowdfunder corner, where
Yeah.
we spotlight some of the. There's a lot. There's a lot of things out there, so we can't spotlight them all.
But I will tell you what, man, truly, I appreciate that you give the space you give to so many creators doing so many Kickstarters. You know, in a day and age where people are finally starting to understand that Kickstarter is not I'm not out there shaking a tin can for nickels, right? We're offering people the opportunity to get a limited edition, deluxe hardcover edition of this book by pre-ordering it. And the fact that through Comics Watch, you do so much to spotlight creators doing quality Kickstarter campaigns is really a huge service. So thank you. Truly thank you for what you do, man.
Well, we love the comics medium, and want to help
Yeah.
everybody out there who's putting in the effort to make their dreams and visions come true. So
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for doing it. I wish more people shared that mentality. So thank you for creating that space for people. It's just very, very, very commendable. Thank you.
well, if we don't talk before, and hopefully I'll see you at New York Comic Con again this year.
That's the plan. Well, we got some cool stuff coming before then, but yeah, I look forward to seeing you there latest. Hopefully, if
Well,
history is an indicator, H8 will embrace the hate at New York Comic Con and Artist Alley. But
yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to, if you want to, we'll definitely do this again whenever you have the next campaign out. So it's always a fun time.
I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking for as much as fun as this has been in London at Midnight. My next two or three book releases over the next year, we're going back to creator owned. Tales of Mystery Volume 6, a new book with Les Garner I did Homestead with called Frog Sweat. People have been beating down my door about Hope Volume 3. So we have some cool stuff on the horizon. But I appreciate you making the space. I appreciate all of you watching. And again, jump in that campaign. We'll just keep unlocking stretch goals and keep paying it forward to all of you. So thank you, my friend.
All right. Well, I'll say we'll let you go because I know you got to keep pounding the internet for and all that because
You never work harder. You never work harder. It's like just hitting that button and let people know, right? So, absolutely.
all right. Well, we'll be in touch, and best of luck as this campaign wraps up.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching, everybody. And seriously, Chad, thank you for what you do with Comic Watch. Thank you.
You're welcome.